Within the credit risk, then we have the model risk management team, right? What happens in a model risk team, and what different types of model are there? If you can give a few examples.
Model risk would involve, entire life cycle of a model. It
Okay.
starts from creation of a model. What are the assumptions underlying when you create a model?
So generally, in a normal retail bank, the model development and the validation team will be separate.
Yeah, that is a regulatory guideline as well, because the validator cannot be the user or the creator of it.
So for model development, if any person wants to get into that role, what are the key skill set he or she should know?
One is, like, if I will talk about the credit models first. You should be thorough with your financial analytics and all.
Now, if somebody wants to not get into the modeling side, but the validation side, still Python and all of this is important.
Then you work on large number of data sets, so that's where Python comes into picture.
If I am a college student, I've just graduated and I want to enter into either validation or the model development, what should I do? Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And I also guide students who are preparing for competitive exams in finance. And as a part of that journey, we meet with a lot of people from the industry trying to understand what are the skill sets that they require to succeed in the industry and how to make a career in finance. And today I am with Kunal, and he's going to be telling us about his journey into the corporate side and his experience of around 9 years into risk management and around 4 years in model risk management. What is the career opportunity over there? So Kunal, first of all, thank you very much for taking
Thank you so
your
much,
time.
sir. Thank you.
So Kunal, for the benefit of the audience, if you can give a brief about your journey till now.
Yeah, so I have banking experience of around 19 to 20 years. I started with retail banking, then about 7, 8 years in wholesale banking, where I handled mid corporate and large corporate clients.
Okay.
And then since last 9 years, I've into credit risk. So started with the credit analytics and underwriting part of risk, and thereafter into model risk and ECL computation, RAROC computation, enterprise risk. So across the various desks I've handled.
Okay, perfect. I'll specifically focus on the model risk slightly later.
Yeah.
Now, because our audience is somebody who is planning to get into risk, who's doing say CFA, FRM, or want to start out their career in finance. Now, for them, if you look at only credit risk, what all teams generally you see in a retail bank within credit risk?
So credit risk, there is Basel team, which is into capital computation for your organization or a bank. Then there is the credit analytics teams, which do the underwriting part, and ECL computation is also part of credit risk. Credit model risk management, you can say, which handles all the credit models of the bank.
Okay.
RAROC is again a credit risk function.
The credit analysis also, which you
Credit analysis, then there's portfolio analysis, industry analysis.
Okay.
These are several desks in credit risk function which are there in the Indian banking setup.
Okay. Now we'll start with your initial experience into the credit risk. Like you mentioned, you were doing underwriting and analysis.
Yeah.
So for somebody who's a student, if you can help us understand, what do you actually do in that role?
In such a desk, what you need to understand is you should be thorough with your financial analysis. You should be good with your financial ratios.
Okay.
So say a business is sourcing a loan proposal. It may be belonging to any of the industry sectors. So you should have a bit of know-how about how a sector performs, what are the nitty-gritties of a particular manufacturing, be it services or IT, financial, NBFC kind of a thing.
Okay.
So you need to know your basics about financials. You do your financial analysis. You analyze the strength of the company as well as the borrower, promoter background, in how it is doing as compared to the peers in that particular sector. And accordingly, you give your decision on the credit. You arrive on the credit decision.
Okay, but that is only the underwriting part, correct?
Yes.
So in this, what I understood is that the financial modeling has to be there. That is the first part where you will do some Excel-based calculation. You might have systems also, but along with that, you would also need the know-how about the industry and some qualitative checkpoints.
Right. So while arriving at the credit decision, you need to rate your customers. So there,
Okay.
credit risk models come into picture, which analyze a borrower in terms of their business, their financial strength, the management, and how it is performing in the industry. So you
Okay.
have various models available for arriving at that decision, which have several parameters which you score based on how the borrower is standing. Benchmark it against those parameters. How on a scale of say 0 to 10 or 0 to 5, and then you arrive at a score, and that can
That can be a basis for your
yes,
decision. So basically, at an underwriting level, you are basically obviously you're doing some level of qualitative check, but
Yeah.
you're also using a lot of models which are already being created,
Right.
which will help you to come out with a score. These are
Yeah.
just, if I'm not wrong, these are internal ratings that are
Yes.
happening
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
And for corporates, you would also look at the credit rating if they are rated,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you also mentioned about portfolio.
Mhm.
So I am assuming that's a separate team altogether.
Yeah.
So what happens in that team? What do they check?
Portfolio analytics, it involves analyzing your own internal portfolio, as well as you benchmark it against how the peers of how the major performers in a particular industry sectors are doing, which
Okay.
may not be in your bank or your organization's fold. So based on that, based on the analysis, you give out your direction, like this sector is set to do well in the future, or
Okay.
there are some macroeconomic indicators which are suggesting that there may be a dip in the performance in that particular sector. So based on that, advisories are issued by the portfolio analytics desk, so which can be consumed in your credit decision.
Okay. So is it like this? For example, I'm having an overall portfolio. Out of that, suppose right now I'm only giving loan of 10% of the portfolio to renewable energy companies.
Yeah.
And the macroeconomic trends are saying it is going to, ideally the market should boom. So I should end up investing more.
Yes.
So I should end up giving loan
Yes.
more.
Yes.
Okay.
And vice versa, like say you are highly exposed to textile sector, or companies who are into textile exports, and with the upcoming tariff structures, which is
Right.
there's uncertainty about it. So you need to check, like you need to rebalance your portfolio. How does it impact your clients or your portfolio in that particular sector?
Okay.
You need to
Okay.
cut down on your new exposure, or maybe scale down your existing exposure and shift it to another sector which may not be so highly impacted by the tariff.
Okay. So is it only by sector or maturity also? Do we do analysis?
Primarily the decision making tool would be the sector, and obviously, like if you have entered into a long maturity loan, then you cannot just call it back. So you can rebalance your portfolio accordingly. You may not take fresh exposures into that sector.
Okay.
You may divert it to some other sector which is not supposed to be that much impacted by
So
it.
if the portfolio risk team highlights that okay, we should stop exposure into this particular sector, then it goes to the business basically.
Right.
That you should reduce your sourcing
Yeah.
of the loans from this sector basically. Okay. And within the credit risk, then we have the model risk management team, right? What happens in a model risk team, and what different types of model are there? If you can give a few examples.
Yeah. So model risk would involve entire life cycle of a model. It starts from creation of a model. What are the assumptions underlying when you create a model?
Okay.
And are the scenarios or parameters which are using while creating a model, are these applicable in the real life business environment right now?
Okay.
Then you back test your models, what kind of outputs you are getting. Are they aligned with your business objectives as well as the regulatory framework? And then you define the criticality of a model, whether it's a high risk model or a medium risk model or a low risk model, and then you create a validation frequency depending on the criticality of the model. So a high risk model may be required to be validated more frequently, and a low risk model may have a relaxed.
So generally, in a normal retail bank, the model development and the validation team will be separate.
Yeah, that is a regulatory guideline as well, because the validator cannot be the user or the creator of a model. So one team or a person is creating the model, he should not validate that. Some third person should validate, who is having knowledge about the functioning of that model.
Now, I'm just going to deep dive into these two
Yeah.
section now. So for model development, if any person wants to get into that role, what are the key skill set he or she should know?
So one is like, if I will talk about the credit models first. You should be thorough with your financial analytics and all, because unless you understand the business or the financial, financial information of a company, you won't be able to create a credit risk model, because that is one of the factors which is looked into when you arrive at a credit decision.
Okay.
Then you need to have industry exposure as well. You need to be able to understand how different industries perform, and based on that you should have questions like business risk. For defining business risk parameters, you need to know how the industry functions.
Okay.
Like, say, if you are creating a model for F&B sector, food and beverages, so hygiene, cleanliness at the plant or where the business is operating, that is would be more important.
Right.
So your questions have to be designed in that manner which checks that.
Okay.
Or if you are into a highly polluting, if you are creating a model for a polluting sector, then you need to know what kind of emissions that company or that organization is making. How do you benchmark it against the peers?
Okay, so basically, because this model will be used by the underwriters to take the decision. So
Yes.
from that perspective, the questions which the underwriter will fill.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And we in FRM curriculum also, we generally hear about models related to probability of default or say loss given default.
Yeah.
So what basically the model risk management team generally they create these models. So what are the things that they actually look when you are supposed creating a PD model from your experience?
PD is nothing but probability of default. So there are various techniques to understand how to create a PD model. One is your transition analysis, how a borrower has transitioned from a higher rating grade to a default grade.
Right.
So say you have a set of 100 borrowers which are into A rating grade, and after an year, say 5 have transitioned to D. So your probability of default is 5% for A rating.
Okay.
So while creating a PD model, like now PD models are also used in the ECL computation. So ECL is a forward-looking approach. So when you are computing a PD, you also need to factor macroeconomic variables while computing PD. So say there are how the country's GDP is expected to perform in the coming years. So accordingly, you need to have a scalar to create a PIT PD, point in time PD from a TTC through the cycle.
PD. So first you'll take the historical data that will give us some idea what is happening, and then you will create scenarios to see how that can change in the future based on what is the outlook.
Yeah.
Okay, and how different it is for a wholesale business when you're looking at the portfolio and calculating the PD, and for a retail.
Wholesale is more granular because the number of clients would be less as compared to retail. So you can go on a granular basis. Whereas for retail, you need to pool of borrowers is much large. So you do it on a portfolio basis. So you identify a homogeneous pool of retail borrowers. It can be a particular product,
say home loan, basically
home loan or mortgage loan, personal loan. So depending on you can create a pool, and you can bunch those borrowers with having a similar kind of maturity, loan maturity, and then you can do a vintage analysis and plot PD for retail borrowers.
Perfect. And you mentioned that to get into the model risk side, model risk management side, you need to have the strong foundation. So when we say foundation, it is basically the how to read the balance sheet or how to read the financial
for credit models. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So is that the only requirement in terms of say understanding base? Because there will be technical requirement also.
Yeah.
But like the way you gave the example, you need to have the financial statement understanding.
Yeah.
Anything else connected to that?
See, for definitely you require your quantitative techniques as well as statistical knowledge as well when you are creating a EAD model or LGD model for your ECL computation. Then there are market risk, various models in market risk, that is VAR models, value at risk. So there also statistical input will be required. Then in liquidity risk models, you need to have statistical knowledge. So for credit risk, financial knowledge is must, but you also need to
As you
have,
move into different risks, the
yes,
knowledge would change.
yes.
And what about technical side? I mean, we were discussing about Python before we started the
Yeah, so
podcast.
Python is like in today's scenario, for if you are into data analytics or risk management, knowing Python, SQL or R is a basic necessity out. I mean, it would ease your work only. It will several processes can be automated, and you can focus more on analytics and all. Otherwise, you have to do that work manually. So I would recommend that Python knowledge is must in today's scenario if you want to work in risk or in financial.
Okay. What is the profile of people who are joining the market risk, the model risk management team?
Not coming from technical knowledge background is not a deal breaker. I mean, I see a mix of people coming from a mix of backgrounds.
Okay.
Like they could be MBAs, then engineering MBAs from pure engineering background, statistical backgrounds.
Okay.
So I mean that is not something which will hinder your entry into that. But you need to be curious and you need to acquire these skills which are required to be in such a role. So say a person who is not from a financial analytics background or an MBA in finance, so you can do your FRM to have a holistic view of risk management.
Okay.
I mean it very well covers all the areas of risk like say credit risk, your operational risk, market risk, liquidity risk. So it provides you an in-depth knowledge of risk management, which can help you to get a role in risk management.
Right. And you also see chartered accountants being a part of this side?
Yes. Chartered accountants are also, but they also like they are very strong in financial analytics and all. So, but I've seen CAs also pursuing and completing FRMs, and doing CFA to
Okay.
enlarge or and
Get a
you
better
say, expand
perspective.
their horizon of knowledge in risk.
Okay. And like you said, Python, SQL, these are the things that ideally anybody who wish to do.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody wants to not get into the modeling side, but the validation side, still Python and all of this is important.
Yes, because it will, when you are on the validation side, you need to conduct several statistical tests to check whether the model is performing well or not. So, if I talk of credit risk models, you compute your Gini coefficient, you do your KS test. So, if you are having knowledge of Python, then I mean you work on large number of data sets. So that's where Python comes into picture. It can automate or ease out your workload when you work on a large data set. Though that analysis can be done under Python, and you can get an output quickly.
Okay.
Because when you are on a model validation team, you may be the organization may be having hundreds or 200s of models, and if you have to validate them annually, it could be 3 to 4 models a day. So I mean, if you start doing it manually, you won't be able to complete your.
Okay. And in model validation, if you can just give us an example, what happens in that role also?
See, so if I talk of credit rating models, you need to check the parameters, whether they are relevant in your current lending scenario or not. Okay. And primary objective of doing a credit model validation is whether the model is able to differentiate between a good and a bad borrower. Right. So that's what Gini coefficient tells you. Yes. So it's a scale of 0 to 1. So if you are the score is on the higher side, like towards 1, then it means that your model is performing well. And if it is towards 0, then it means that model is not able to differentiate between good and bad models.
Right. So basically, it is able to predict better. It's had a good lift.
Yeah. So how you calculate it is an area under curve. You plot your defaults on the graph, and it is expected that the majority of defaults should be happening towards the lower rating grade. If I'm talking about corporate borrowers, so the rating scale ranges from D is the default rates, from C, B, then triple B, A, double A, triple A. Okay. So majority of default should fall on the lower rating grades, and then your the graph should.
So this section is also there in our FRM basically. So if you are saying 5% of people, 5% default will happen, that should ideally happen to the lowest 5% of the overall audience.
Yes. Yes.
That is what the perfect model will predict.
Yes, yes.
Random model will say 5% can happen anywhere.
Yeah. So it would be a straight line then.
Ha.
Like model is not differentiating between good and bad borrowers. So you have 5% default in B rating grade as well. You are having 5% in A,
A also.
then double A. So it is not solving the purpose.
Right. And your model is somewhere in between, and you
Yeah.
want to move towards the perfect model.
Yes.
Right, right. So perfect. I mean, with respect to the model validation also, now what is the difference in the skill set for both the teams? Because like you said, okay, you also need to know Python. You also need to, because you're checking. So
Yeah.
is there a difference that is there in skill set for both the teams?
For the model creation
And the model validation.
Model validation is more on the statistical side, but I mean, what I feel is that you should have, if you are worked on the model creation side, then you would be a better validator. Just
Okay.
like when you are working in risk management, if you have worked on the business side, you would be a better risk management professional. Because I feel that risk is not a back office kind of a job. It ensures that the business runs smoothly and organization's goals are achieved in a proper way. Like you need to know what risk you are taking, and then only you will be able to
Do the business
do the
properly.
business.
But from validation, have you seen people moving to development?
Yes, yeah, on rotation, and if an individual is interested to acquire that skill set, like from validation, now he wants to move to model creation side. So that is possible.
If I am a college student, I've just graduated and I want to enter into either validation or the model development, what should I do as per your understanding? The way you guide to the college student, like what should be your step? You might not be able to join today,
Yeah.
but you can at least have a plan. So if you can help us with that.
So what I would say is you work on the basics, you strengthen your statistical and quants knowledge. If possible, you do your FRM or for risk management related roles. CFA, obviously, if you are more inclined towards investment banking and portfolio analytics, so that for that CFA would be very good. So you need to know your quants and your financial analysis well. And then there are upcoming areas like climate risk. So climate risk modeling is one thing which is very hot cake right now. Climate related data you analyze and create climate risk models. So that is while doing our portfolio analysis also climate risk comes into picture. Say if I talk of retail loans, so how much percentage of my portfolio is lying in the flood prone areas or drought prone areas? So how it may impact the repayment pattern of the borrowers. So their climate risk modeling will come into picture.
So that is the future that we see.
Yeah. So I see a lot of traction in this area. Climate risk modeling is something which.
Okay. So basically, in the next 5-7 years, you will see credit risk also looking at the climate part, some of the climate, how it is going to impact the credit risk.
As we spoke about the PD models, probability of default models. So there's a concept called climate adjusted PD. So you adjust your climate when you compute your PD for a particular rating grade or a set of borrowers. Then you apply your climate analytics also in that, and then see how it will impact it will increase the PD to what extent.
Okay. Because there is also a concept of climate war that they have started talking about. So the way you're calculating for all the different types of risk war, so you are also going to be calculating for climate. Now, from the perspective of a student who wish to suppose like you mentioned, he wants to enter and he wants to prepare and go for it. So in interviews, what is the question that what are the different types of questions that he can expect? That I'll be tested on that.
So while appearing for an interview, a candidate should always correlate his technical skills or acquired knowledge with real life scenarios. If you are able to explain the concepts using business, how it is going to impact the business or help in achieving the organizational goal, that would be ideal to succeed in an interview. If I just talk about what I've learned in books, obviously a fresher would have knowledge from
books only.
Books only. But then if you have done your internships or your on-job training, summer training, so there you should try to apply your knowledge
Okay.
into real life scenarios. You speak to your mentors and seniors and try to see how it is impacting in the real business environment.
Okay.
And if you can while appearing for an interview, if you can use those kind of experiences in explaining the concepts to the interviewer, I think that would be
So we have interesting rapid fire questions. You have to answer fast.
okay.
Okay. What is the first skill set somebody must learn to start into the credit risk modeling side?
Financial analytics, I would mention two: financial analytics and Python for your data analysis.
Python. Okay. FRM or CFA, which would you be recommending for beginners in credit risk?
FRM for if you are more inclined towards risk management, CFA for investment banking and portfolio.
Okay. How to prepare for behavioral questions in the credit risk interviews?
Yeah, so you should understand what kind of temperament is expected in the role which you are applying for.
Okay.
So if you are going for analytics role, you should be comfortable with the data, and you should be, I mean, not impulsive, I would say.
Okay.
So that sort of mindset you should be having.
One common mistake candidates make in interview.
Trying to align your answers to what might sound pleasing to the interviewer.
Okay.
You should be more realistic, apply your knowledge to realistic situations, and accordingly answer.
Okay. Is a non-finance background a barrier in credit risk?
Not at all. Like I've seen people coming from arts background, engineering background, doing very well in financial.
Okay.
Basically, you should be curious about things and ready to learn.
Okay, interesting. One advice for someone starting in the credit risk modeling side.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the first question also, Python knowledge you require for data analytics. You should be sound with your financial analysis knowledge and open to learn new things. You should come with an open mind.
Okay.
Try to acquire upcoming knowledge in upcoming risk areas. And
Okay.
for validation, you need to know how the model functions, how it is affecting the business, and then you will be a good candidate.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, Kunal. I mean, this conversation will really help a lot of students to get some insight into the modeling side and the validation side. Because till now, in our podcast also, we have not explicitly in the past podcasts explicitly talked about the validation part.
Right.
We do have taken some podcast on the modeling, but that was also into quant. This was explicitly into credit risk.
Yeah.
So people who wish to get into this area will definitely benefit. So again, thank you, Kunal.
Thank you so much.
For taking
Thank
our
you.
time.